Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learning. I'm delighted to today be joined by Mandy Baker from Chalmers Agency in Stock, who is a business owner there. Mandy, how are you doing? And thank you for coming on.
Okay, a little bit hot, not as hot as yesterday, but still quite humid.
Yeah, it's a lot cooler today. So, talk to me agency wise. You've been an agent for a couple of years now.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Um, what made you become an estate agent? Who would want to become an estate agent, hey?
I know. I must admit, I've got a lot more sympathy for estate agents now that I've been one. And I and I did join at about the time where it was pretty dire, so I didn't really know what I was getting into, luckily. But it was an opportunity. I've always loved property. A friend of mine who'd run this business for 20 years, although it was a different name, different branding, but in the village that I loved, and he wanted to finish and said, did I fancy taking over? And I really, really did. So I was looking for a new business challenge. So that's how it came to be.
So what were you doing previously then, before you became an estate agent?
So I worked in our family business, which was label printing. So very, very different from estate agents. Like you get paid every day when you make labels.
No.
Yeah, money comes in every day. And you'll never guess when you actually somebody puts an order in, they pay you at that time rather than 4 months, 5 months later. So I'd worked in the family business, which was Baker Labels, a quite big manufacturing company. We had about a thousand. We had 100 staff at the time that I left, and it was an amazing business. I learned a lot. We had 20 members of staff when I joined, and learned masses about running a business, but primarily about people. That was my real passion within the business. And that I think has put me in good stead for estate agency.
Okay, so let's delve a little bit deeper with what you learned and what you've brought into agency in the last couple of years. Running a business, what have been your challenges of setting up and running an agency?
Um, I feel fairly confident on the actual running the business. I love a spreadsheet. I've always done the accounts, so doing all of that's not a problem. I know about money in, money out, that's fine. I think the biggest challenge was, making sure, because obviously it's a very important financial transaction. So getting up to speed. The guy that I bought the business off stayed for 10 months afterwards. So I did have that mentorship and the ability. And because I am very collaborative, as you know, Stephen, I got to know everybody in the industry who's also really collaborative, and everyone's been extremely generous with their knowledge. So it wasn't so much the actual business side of thing, it was getting to know how to be a really good estate agent. And like the key, I feel like we've got the processes really nailed now. And obviously, I felt that there was a lot of room for improvement as well, as far as trying to make the conveyancing process, because that was one of my main motivators to get into the business, was to try and help make it better and less stressful for people, because I'd experienced that myself. Um, and really, the biggest challenge is business because, obviously it's been difficult. Most agents say that it has been difficult for the last 2 years. And understanding that external factors can really affect your own business. And I've never been in a business that was so badly affected by external factors.
Okay, coming back, God, you've just unloaded loads and loads there. Um, so let's talk about it is a stressful business. Um, Obviously, you've been through buying and selling yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen a few of your rants on LinkedIn and on Facebook talking about conveyancing. What are you doing then to change that?
Well, having worked out that I don't want to spend my time sort of lobbying government or doing anything like that, I think that each individual agent can do a lot themselves to help the process. And I know, Stephen, I listened to podcasts that you'd done in the beginning as well, and very much about educating the consumer and upfront information, and all of those things. So we're really working on helping our clients through every step and not presuming that they know, because most people only do this once or twice in their lifetime, and we are the experts. So there's a lot we can do, and trying to build, I have regular meetings with the solicitors that we use the most, and that really improves that relationship. So it's really trying to improve what we do, rather than changing the world. But we've brought in reservation agreements, and that's worked really well for us. It is, we try and get ahead of the game by telling our clients to have all the documents ready, have everything ready in the house. If you can do anything to make sure you've got those building regs in place, once you get an offer. There's so many things that people can do to make it better, but we have got a slight advantage that we are small, so we've got lower numbers. So I'm working on increasing our commission rate to allow us the time to do the process really well and to help people the way it should be helped. So we do less deals, but we can go deeper, and because I don't know how these agents do it really when they've got so many houses to worry about and there's so many things to think of. But walking your clients through the process is really good, even down to like getting your ID ready for the solicitors, paying on account. You can lose 1 or 2 weeks at the beginning of a deal, and nobody knew that the solicitor wasn't working on it until they have those things. So it's doing the basics well, I think, but communication is huge.
So I couldn't agree more with you, and especially communication and going through the process at the moment with my girlfriend looking to buy. Lack of communication is just horrendous.
Yeah.
So, what should agents be doing to communicate better with their sellers and their buyers and their landlords and their tenants?
Well, I think in the world we're in now, there are so many ways to communicate. We ask our clients how they like to be communicated with, because, my preference would be that we WhatsApp everybody because it's so quick and easy and people respond really quickly to it. I also like not being too intrusive in their lives, but if somebody prefers email, if somebody, there are some calls that have to be done as an actual phone call. And I think it's knowing when to make the phone call, when to make it a message, and when to make it an email. And I've always said, I don't think anyone's ever moaned at us for over communicating. If in doubt, even if you're saying to somebody, I've got nothing to tell you, but don't worry, it's in hand, because people realise that it takes a long time, but I think they just need to be told that don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. And I think it is one of people's biggest bugbears with estate agents, isn't it, that they don't communicate enough.
I think is number one.
Mm.
Um, and I think trust comes a very close second. Why should I trust my estate agent?
Did you ever hear the stat that said that people trust a stranger in the street 65% more? Or no, hang on, I've done that wrong. 65% of people would trust a stranger in the street above an estate agent.
Scary, isn't it?
I mean, what if the stranger in the street was an estate agent?
Now there's a question. So let's come back. Collaboration.
Yep.
So that is changed much for the better than it was in my days as an agent.
Yeah.
Um, if there was collaboration, it was very, very rare. Um, how's that been helping you, and what sort of collaboration are you getting, and with whom?
Well, I make a point, as you know, I'm quite friendly. So I make a point of trying to, know my local agents well as well. So that if you're in a chain with other agents, that really helps as well. And I think that goes a long way to clients thinking that we're more professional if we are working together to make things happen. As I said, we talk to our solicitors a lot, and again, we've had a tricky transaction going through recently, and I've put in a call to the managing director of the solicitors to say, can I pop in and see you when this is done? Because I just know the relationship will get back on track with a face-to-face meeting. And that hour that it will take me to have that meeting with them will save time further on down the line. I mean, I was talking to somebody in Portugal the other day, and they were saying about how they get a much higher rate of commission, but then they share it. But the property is the agent's property. So if you, as another agent, had a buyer, you come to me with the buyer rather than go to the client. And I think that's really something we should work on in England, because I think we look unprofessional.
Sorry.
Did we lose connection there for a little bit?
Yes, you froze. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, you're back.
Okay. Good. So keep on going. So you're talking about Portugal and collaboration. I mean, for me, what will be interesting is the fees are a lot higher in Europe, considerably higher. And I've just been away in Canada. I was talking to an agent there, and they were telling me they get 5 to 6%.
Yeah,
We're the cheapest by a long, long way.
yeah,
So to get people to share, 1%, which maybe is the average UK fee at the moment, is quite scary. Yet there are other agents that are definitely getting. So, I agree. Something needs to change, especially on the fee wise. It's just ridiculous for the amount of work that is done. Especially with only, I think the latest stat was 53% of sales go through, the
yeah,
47% of sales don't go through. So it's absolutely mad.
yeah.
So that's
And if agents were to work together like they do in other countries, I just think we'd seem much more professional. And it's a little bit like, they say that in England we don't respect waiters and waitresses and serving staff in restaurants and stuff like that. Whereas in the Mediterranean, that's a really well respected job. And I think we need to respect the work that estate agents do more and respect each other more, work together, and then we will get higher fees, potentially more joint. At the higher end of the market, agents do share fees and share referral fees, and I think we should try and do that more.
I agree. I just want to come back to something that you said because you piqued my curiosity when you talked about face-to-face meeting with the MD.
Yeah,
I think face-to-face meetings are really, really important, whether it's either putting forward an offer, where maybe it's a adjustment, price alignment, actually going to meet the people. What's your thoughts on that?
100%. I don't know. It depends. We're lucky enough to be small, so we can make a decision on each instance. I always think if you can feel a relationship going south a little bit or getting a bit angsty, then a face-to-face meeting. And I've done it this week, actually. I had a vendor who was feeling quite stressed about the process. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go around there and meet face-to-face and chat it through. And it clears everything. And it is the skill of knowing when to do each communication style. But face to face, we know that as well, don't we? Social media, people are so rude to each other, whereas they wouldn't do that face to face. And also, I like doing things a little bit different to everybody else. So, like the personal touch always works, I think.
I couldn't agree more. So you talked about at the start about estate agents need to improve and get better. Um, what makes you stand out compared to other agents?
That makes me sound like I know loads of absolutely brilliant agents, so I'm not being rude. Um, I can only talk about myself. I can't. What I'd like to think is that I'm quite empathetic and that I listen, even though I do talk quite a lot. I do listen as well. And I've been in the situation myself, and I know what it feels like not to have somebody trying their best for you. And we all know that feeling where you get brilliant customer service. And I want to be that person. And I want to help somebody through the most stressful, it's said to be one of the most stressful periods of time. And you and I both know from experience that at some point in virtually every deal, everyone gets really stressed about everything. And I just want to make sure that nobody cuts their nose off to spite their face, which can quite often happen. And I think I'm quite good with people. So I'd like to think, although since becoming an estate agent, I'm not so sure because it is hard. It is hard.
Okay, so what about you? Stressful not only for the buyers and sellers, but it's also stressful for the agent. So how do you deal with stress?
I must admit, I've had more anxiety had in my life being an estate agent. Um, I don't look at emails after 7 o'clock at night now because that used to just really stress me out because you can't do anything about it. Um, just really being on top of everything on a daily basis, not letting anything go over from one day to the next, and then you can't worry. Again, I think communication for us as agents is best because sometimes you can put off what you think is going to be a horrible call, but actually by the end of it you feel better. So that really helps. But as you know, I play a lot of paddle, so that helps me relax. That is an hour and a half of not thinking about anything else. And I think that's got me through a lot of stressful times.
Good. Yeah, you're just smacking that ball against people, aren't you? And against walls.
Yeah, and you can't use your phone. Where the club I go to, the reception's really bad, so you can't use your phone while you're playing. Well, you obviously can't play paddle and use a phone at the same time, but it's an hour and a half of nothing, so that's really good. I'm all for looking after yourself mentally and physically.
Good. You have also got an absolute thirst for learning. Um, so where does that come from? And what do you enjoy learning?
Um, Not sure where it comes from. As you know, I am your best student.
Obviously.
Um, but I only like learning things that I'm really interested in. I can't just learn for the sake of it. And I really like learning stuff that you're going to use in everyday life. But I've got a really big interest in humans and human behavior. And so I love anything like that. And I just think you can listen to a podcast and a book or read a book and it just I don't know. I can't imagine why people don't want to learn more. I'm not so big on formal qualifications. I think it's more picking up a book that really interests you and learning stuff like that. But obviously I've had a lot to learn in 2 years.
So let's talk about human behavior because it is a pretty emotional roller coaster of an experience being an estate agent.
Yeah.
Um, so what lessons have you learned about human behavior so far being an agent?
I have learned, and this is probably a lesson I did need to learn, I've learned to say less and to listen more. When people are in that heightened state and they've got money and emotions and potentially a whole family sitting behind them that's dreams are in that house, um, it's so easy to say something that upsets somebody, and sometimes they just want to spout off. They know that you're not responsible or nothing can be done about the thing, and they just really need you to listen. So I have learned to listen more and say less. Not that you'd probably believe that, Stephen, but I have.
It's the 80-20 rule. Um, and actually, do you know if you take the word listen and you rearrange the letters, do you know what what it rearranges to?
No.
You got 30 seconds. This is going to be the next 30 seconds. To have a silent podcast.
Is it silent?
No, amazing. Well done. How did you get that? So yeah, listen and silent.
That's
So there you go. But yeah, it's the 80-20 rule. And I remember I was sat at an event and I had somebody from a big agency and he was asking me what I did and I told him and he told me a story where he went on an appraisal and he asked the seller, do you mind if I record it? Because I want to take it back and, demonstrate to my colleagues how the best appraisal can be done. And the seller said yes, of course. And then he went back and he listened to himself and he was horrified. He said he just spoke 80% of the time and listened 20% of the time. So,
mm,
and in fairness to him, he played it to his colleagues and he said, this is not how you do an appraisal.
wow.
So, which, which was a good
And do you
lesson
know
to
what? I
learn.
think it's so good to be so mindful of your own behaviour. And I think you have to be really open to the fact that you aren't always brilliant at doing things. And I think, especially learning something new at my age, I've realised that, it's taken 2.5 years to get where I am now. I've learned so much, but in the early days, and you just think, oh no, I messed that up. Like, and talking too much in evaluation is a really easy thing to do. And you come back and you think, oh, and sometimes you can tell when you've said something and you've lost them at that point. Um, so I've made a fair amount of mistakes, but you do learn from them better. It just
I
hurts.
mean, it does. It does. But that's how you improve and that's how you get better.
Yeah.
Um, so you're learning a lot.
Mhm.
You go to a lot of different places to learn.
Yep.
You are not just my best pupil, but everybody's best pupil. Uh, um, Implementation and taking action is really important. So,
Yeah.
how do you take action and how do you implement stuff that you've learned on various courses that you go to?
I'm getting better at that. I'd still say I was a work in progress. What I'm trying to do at the moment is this will be groundbreaking for you, Stephen. I'm putting things in the diary and really trying to keep to it.
We'll get schedule gets done.
Yes, I've learned from somebody not too far away that that is the thing. What I've loved about my learning with you is, a lot of estate agency is about consistency and doing the same thing regularly. And whereas I'm a little bit all over the place and like variety, but I'm learning to be more consistent. I've put it in the diary. I don't always hit it because of various things. Um, but learning that, okay, if I didn't get it right this week, I'll try again next week to get it better and stuff like that. And I love lists. I love making lists. Sometimes I'm better at making the list than actually doing the list. Um, I love IT and I love paper. So I tend to have paper and IT for my lists. It's just a work in progress, you can only do what you can do.
Do you know what I like about you?
Everything.
Apart from that, your honesty. Okay.
Oh,
Um, because it is what it's like. I think the agent's biggest challenge, two things are one, being consistent, um, and two, actually taking action and implementing stuff. But you're very honest about it, so thank you. Um, I know you are a ambassador, I believe, for Women in the State Agency.
yeah.
So tell us about the group and how that's working and why people should be joining it as well.
Well, so as you well know, it's a brilliant women's group, but it's not just for women. It is for men that support women within the industry as well. And it started off in a Facebook group. I think we're over 4,000 people now. But we have the most amazing conference once a year. So it's quite different from that point of view. And the conference is just stunning, isn't it? It is so different from anything else that I've ever been to. I went to the first one, which I know you spoke at the first one, and it's just it's just personal. And this year's was amazing. The stories that women told and the vulnerability and the feeling I had when I left there, and I took two members of staff there as well, and they were just on a high too. It's just unbelievable. But I've said this a lot in the last couple of days. The best thing about it is supporting each other and knowing that there's somebody you can speak to when things are going tough, or maybe even when things are going well. There's nothing like having people who are in the same situation as you. And I'm a regional champion, but I also host a monthly wellbeing call with Emma Redley from Smart Compliance. And it's just a drop in where we can all check in. And we said to each other today that, people in the modern world of social media and stuff like that don't go on about their vulnerabilities. And I mean, some people do, but most estate agents aren't going to go online and say, we're having a terrible time at the moment, this, and this has happened. Whereas when you can talk to other people and everyone say, actually, it is really hard at the moment, that makes you all feel better and you can get on with getting the stuff done rather than feeling bad about what's happened. So it's a massive supportive group headed by our board of I don't know what we call them. They're not directors, are we? I can't remember. The board, who are amazing, and they give up all their time, well, not all their time, but a lot of their time for it. But it's just stunning. It's really hard to describe the conference. It's the most amazing day, I think, of the year, really.
I think it's the best conference I've been to, and I've been to a few in my years of property. It's
Um,
exceptional. So if people want to don't know about the group and want to get involved, how do they find it on Facebook?
So it's Women in Estate Agency Facebook group. So asked to join the group. So it's people in estate agency. It's a real no sell thing. You know, you don't go in it to try and sell lots of things to each other. It's a supportive, learning, advice giving, support giving group. And that's the best way to get connected and get involved and let yourself be known. We have regional champions all around the country, so who have meetups as well. So we do in person as well. And we're always open to ideas of how we can make it better.
Brilliant. So, final question for
Yep.
you. If people want to get hold of you, how do they do that?
So you can find me on Instagram. I can't even remember my thing. I think it's Mandy underscore Chalmers Agency. My company is Chalmers Agency. We're in Stock in Essex, which is the most beautiful village. So if you're ever in Essex, come and drop in because we've got a lovely office. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of those things.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for being a great guest, and thank you for sharing so much great content. Thank you all for watching and listening. So please like it, share, record it, get all your friends to like it, share it, and record it. And until the next one, have a good day. Bye.